What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today let's talk about all the lies that we've been exposed to, most of which has been revealed in 2020. And let's look at it from the attachment point of view, what is doing to us and has been doing to us at a neurological level, but also at the brain frequency level. And what that actually means, this detachment from these lies, if we have been able to achieve that detachment, as opposed to attachment to everything. One of the main purposes of this channel is for us to be able to have healthy, solid, and free discussions about our psyche, about the science of our brain waves, the science of our electromagnetic fields, the science of our cellular frequencies, tying that back into human psychology and also the world event, as well as the way in which we live our lives. And what we're trying to do is to expand our minds, expand the way we question everything, the way we look at everything, and as a result we're hoping to be able to expand our consciousness, which in turn inevitably will bring more success, health, and wealth into our beings. I'm the perfect example of it because I live all this stuff on a daily basis. I want to share those science findings with you. And for those of you who are just interested in the soundtracks that I compose, I've created a separate list for you guys so that you don't have to watch all the videos. If you want to go there directly, you can just go there to the soundtracks. So let's start off by just bringing up the idea and the notion of all the lies that we've been exposed to. Now, a lie can become a lie only when it is being told in comparison to something that we believed to be true. So let's say hypothetically that there is a topic that for me never had a truth for me in my life. So if somebody comes and negates that topic, that is not necessarily is considered as a lie for me. In other words, I don't perceive it to be a lie. So if you think of lie at that level, it's just a lie. In actuality, it's just a comparison of certain information. That is at a social media information and news level. Another type of lie is if people are deceitful in terms of hiding their agenda, having hidden agenda. That would be another type of lie. And I think in 2020, most of us, if not all of us, have been exposed to a lot of these different types of lies, and that has in turn impacted the way we think about ourselves, our surrounding, and everything else, and as a result it has also impacted our lives. At the same token, attachment is another human psychology phenomena that is pretty much with us since birth. We started having physical attachment to our parents, specifically to our mother, for obvious reasons, and then it sort of grew with us. And attachments, if they are unexamined, and if they just are let to grow, can potentially, and will, I should not say can, will have harmful ramification when we grow to be adults in our adulthood, in our adult lives. Mainly because most of the time, it has some type of a destructive level of behavior in people. One of the main destructive behavior of attachment is, for example, if you are a person who's been attached to certain things or certain people for a while, you probably have noticed that it's really hard to free yourself from a specific type of behavior, a specific type of person, even though that person or that behavior may not be very constructive in your life. And when I was doing undergrad in cognitive psychology, we had a whole freaking book about the way in which attachment really impacts the neurological aspect, but also the livelihood of a lot of people and their lives, of course. Now, if we dive in deeper and go at a more delicate level to look at these attachments, most of them, if not all of them, but I can't say all because I don't know you guys, but I can only talk about the science that I know that I've come to read, and also a lot of research that I have done. But that is to say is that those attachment, a lot of times they have some correlation with these type of hidden agenda or lies that people have been exposed to. And the reason I say that if they're unexamined, they can blow up on us is because they actually have that effect. Because a thought that is unexamined and it's being thought over and over again, it only gives birth to the same type of thought. The reason that it gives birth to the same type or same line of thought, it's primarily because one of the jobs of the brain is to not spend too much energy. So if something appears to be working, brain innately wants to go on autopilot. It's easier for it to be on autopilot as opposed to be a critical thinker, that we call it, like keep spending energy to think, spending energy to really give in-depth thoughts. And so because of that, a thought that is trusting information, trusting a person, whether that thing is a lie or not, whether that thing has an hidden agenda or not, is very likable by the brain. The brain likes doing that. And as we have talked many times in the past, a thought that has been thought, it creates a specific type of brain frequency sets. When I say sets, it means that it can include several type of brain frequencies at specific type of location, but they're all typical to that type of a brain thought, if you will. And so because of that, then that thought creates and emanates that same set of brain frequencies that then impacts the cellular frequencies. So that is where a lot of the attachments come in. Every thought, in addition for it to create a set of frequencies in the body, it also helps produce specific type of chemicals in the brain, but also in the cells. So it produces these type of chemicals and releases it into the body. Now, the attachment part of it at a physical level comes to discussion in this part that I'm talking about, because whether we like it or not, we are very prone into becoming attached to certain chemicals. That's why, for example, we eat pills or we become drug addicts. It's very normal. And so the same goes for the attachment to these neurotransmitters, to these hormones that the brain keeps emanating because of the same thoughts. So you can only imagine that how this all ties back into one another when we look at the same thought of pattern being attached to the same type of brain pattern, brain frequencies, cellular frequencies, which then results in being attached to the same type of drug that the brain is producing, actually on a daily basis. So it's not one thing. It's a repetitive behavior because thoughts are repetitive, because the brain wants to preserve energy. Now, the same goes to all the lies. So can you imagine that you've been exposed being exposed to a specific lie that you've heard over and over and over again. Let's just take a very simple example that I think in 2020 many people can relate with, is the fact that we can trust our officials, let's say within our states. But then we realize in 2020 that a lot of these decisions that have been made, it's been very political, and then lie after lie comes up, which, whether we like it or not, whether we believe it or not, there have been a lot of contradictory information. But let's say hypothetically that was a lie. And if I as a person were really attached to this, meaning to say that I strongly believe those repetitive information that I'd been hearing for many years, obviously I was attached to it because I kept having the same repetitive thoughts that in turn produced the same type of chemicals within my brain that then was released within my body. So any information that comes along and does not support the idea or the lie that I've been attached to for all these years, I'm going to dismiss, just because I am highly addicted to that chemical being produced in my body. Not only that chemical, but also the brain frequencies, the set of brain frequencies that then create the set of EMFs around me, electromagnetic fields. And so you can only imagine this vicious cycle that a person, let's take me as an example, that would go through, and this sort of roller coaster that I may go through. That's why a lot of people in 2020 have a hard time having discussions with opposing partners, because detaching from those thoughts or those chemicals or those frequencies is very hard. And because of that, a lot of us have difficulties with that. Now, imagine for a moment if those attachments were not there. Let's just imagine for one moment that none of them was there. That does not mean that we're going to roll over. That does not mean that we're going to agree with everybody. That does not mean that we're going to let our ideologies and thoughts go away, because then we as people, as a person, will go away. We will have definitely existential crisis. But let's imagine for a moment that we still can hold those ideologies, but we're not necessarily attached to them to that level, such that we are extremely, extremely attached to those chemicals and the frequencies of those thoughts. If you're able to imagine that moment when the attachment is not there, and again, that does not mean that we roll over and agree with the counterparties, but at a detachment at a healthy level, if you can imagine that, that is the point where the total freedom of these chemicals that are being released in the body and all of these frequencies that are being emanating in the body comes in. And if you're able to experience that even for a moment, it is the point of freedom. It is an ultimate point of content, relaxed, satisfying freedom of a person who's able to think clearly and make clear decisions. That is in turn the ultimate way that a human being is supposed to live by. It's really hard to explain it unless you experience it. If you have experienced it, I'm sure you understand what this means. And if you have not, I urge you to expand your thought a little bit, maybe a little bit question your thought a little bit, and be able to be open to experience that, because that level of freedom, miraculously, it is so detached that everything else in the world and in the life will follow. The reason I say that is that at a physical level, which is in this case is the chemicals, and at the non-physical level, which is also the frequency level, something miracle happen, something miraculously happens with those relief and the freedom of the chemicals and of these frequencies that puts the person in such an elevated state, such an expanded consciousness state, that everything else in that person's life will follow. It becomes an effortless, beautiful, happy, wealthy, healthy way of living that it's unheard of, because it is as if we follow what we're supposed to follow, as opposed to the lies that we have been following, the lies that we've been told to, the lies that we've been hearing and believing for maybe most of our lives. And that level of freedom is the level of expansion of the mind, expansion of the consciousness, which then in turn brings in the level of success that a human being is supposed to experience, the level of happiness that a person is supposed to bring. And I know this at a scientific level, but I also know it at a personal level, because that level of detachment brings in the level of detachment from these chemicals that I've been so attached to. Because attachments are cravings. Attachments are cravings at all levels. They are cravings for these chemicals, but also they are cravings for everything else that is happening in our life, or in our day-to-day life, I should say. So I urge you to consider thinking about it. If I haven't been explaining well, please listen to it again, because sometimes it's a little bit hard for me to go in depth and explain what comes into my mind. Sometimes it happens really fast, and I'm learning, though. I'm learning to be able to communicate these at a more articulate level. I'm trying to be more articulate, but I hope it makes sense to you. And I urge you to consider thinking about it. Thanks so much to those of you who comment. I know that you guys are great thinkers. I know that a lot of you have amazing things to say. So thank you for sharing, and I see you next time. Take care. Bye.